Welcome to Mainland Television News. I'm Graham O'Brien, and some of the stories coming up in our Nelson Tasman Regional News Weekly Roundup. Tops cooking it up in Nelson, motorcyclist killed in tourist rental van collision, wicked van ban, and much more. Due to the weather event that started on Wednesday the 23rd, the Nelson Tasman Civil Emergency released a statement saying that although skies are clearing and river levels are dropping, there is still a large amount of flooding in the Rewalker and Golden Bay areas, with 17 roads closed due to flooding and or slips. The three highest rainfall areas were Anatoki with 376 millimetres, followed by Canaan 336, Collingwood with 298, and Nelson's Founders Park had 105 millimetres over a 24-hour period. The largest flood occurred in the Rewalker River, where the flood in the South Branch tributary peaked at 96 cubic metres per second, and the flow in the North Branch peaked at 94, which was the second highest flow since records began in 1982. The combined flow in the Rewalker River downstream of State Highway 60 was estimated to peak at approximately 200 cubic metres per second around 8 a.m. on Thursday morning. As the peak flow was not fully retained inside the stop banks, this is an estimate only. This flood flow in the Rewalker River would be the second highest since records began in 1982, with 210 cubic metres per second being recorded in 1983, and corresponds to approximately a 1 in 50-year flood event. In the Rewalker Township area, a small number of homes were evacuated due to the river flooding. A civil defence centre has been set up at the Motueka Recreation Centre to cope with anyone that needs assistance. The Takaka River catchment also experienced significant flooding. The upper catchment rivers reached flows corresponding to around 15 to 30-year flood events. The upper Takaka River at Harwood's flow site recorded the second highest level since records began in 1975. Cooking up a storm in the top of the south here in Nelson for their foodie program, Top Country, were two of our New Zealand icons, Jules and Linda Top. I caught up with Jules of the Top Twins at the Victory Community Centre this week.
Nelson's very, dear to us. We've played here many times before, but we're here doing our TV program in Nelson.
Sure, and how's that been? Is it interesting enough for you to put on your TV show?
Oh yeah, Nelson's got great food, good weather, everything that a TV crew wants. And we haven't really done a lot of our TV program in Nelson before. So I think we've done about 3 stories from Nelson in the last series. So we've been here for 5 days now, and Nelson's been good to us. They've looked after us nicely. And the thing about it here is, it's very alternative too. So we've been making miso with the Japanese couple. We've been up at the walnut farm. We've been here at the community centre today doing all the gardens with the kids. So yeah, there's a lot on offer.
There's a lot of diversity in this area, isn't there?
Yeah, and it's just great to be around it because it's something that we're passionate about. New Zealand is really diverse now. We have to be seeing, food has changed so much. When we first started touring in this country, you could get a pie and a lamington, and now when you go to a cafe, there's just too much to choose from. Sometimes I think it would be good if it got back to being a little bit simpler. And in some ways, when we come to places like the Victory School and Community Centre, they are going back to something that's a little simpler. Kids learning how to grow food in the garden and then eating it. So it's kind of a fun thing.
And it's certainly fun and a lot of energy with the children here, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's hard to shut the kids up. They all want to have their say on camera and everything like that. But I think that food's not just for grown-ups. Food, kids, they've already discovered here at this community centre that if kids grow their food, they're more likely to eat it. Yeah. And if you just buy veggies at the supermarket and you put them on the plate at home, kids have no idea of where that food came from. So we're going back a little bit really. Yeah. Everyone, my granddad had a garden. He grew all his food. Mum and Dad have always had a garden. It's something my generation sort of got out of.
A crash between a tourist van and a motorcyclist near Motueka on Monday has resulted in a man's death. The 42-year-old male motorcyclist has been named as Joseph Goff of Tapawera. Mainland TV understands that he died at the scene following the head-on crash on West Bank Road. Police say the motorcyclist and the van were travelling in opposite directions and collided on the rural road about 2:50 p.m. on Monday afternoon. The 3 occupants of the van were not injured in the crash. A serious crash investigation is underway to establish the cause of the crash. Chrissy Small spoke with Mainland Managing Director Gary Watson, who came across the scene.
We received a press release through the police about the accident, but Gary, you were there. You came across it.
Yes. It was on Motueka River West Bank Road. It was about 3 kilometres south from where the Brooklyn Valley turnoff is. It was near the Shaggery Road corner and was not a pretty sight. The problem, I think, was that it appeared to me that the camper van was on the wrong side of the road. It appeared that the motorcyclist was on the correct side. It didn't look like speed was a factor to me, but let's wait and see what the officials come out with. But the reason I'm coming on today here is that of talking to the police unofficially, some of the comments that I'm getting, not at that accident, but talking with the police, is this is happening frequently, almost every day throughout New Zealand. And there are things that I'd like to see the government really take this on seriously and do something about it. People coming from countries that drive on the same side of the road as us, I don't see as a big problem, but it's the people who are used to driving on the opposite side.
Yeah, on the right-hand side rather than left.
We could have brochures in different languages that are in all the booklets on the aeroplanes that are coming into New Zealand.
Gary, they do have videos.
Yes, they do. They have some.
Yeah.
But here is the point, is that it needs to be at everybody, and signs in the camper vans reminding even the passengers to keep an eye on the driver, to say if he's on the wrong side of the road, tell him he's on the wrong side of the road and get it sorted.
Do you think there should be some kind of testing regime for foreign drivers before they even get behind the wheel? Because at this stage, we know how difficult, I have teenagers who are trying to get their licences. It's quite difficult to get a car licence these days in New Zealand when you're a New Zealander, but it seems to be carte blanche for foreigners to just come here and just drive. And we don't have the best roads in the world, and very narrow roads. Well, they're not well lit in most cases. Lines don't exist in our rural roads.
That's because our council's saving money. The TDC says they didn't want to have lines on some of the roads. It's crazy.
It is crazy, but that's not entirely the whole problem. No. So, maybe we need arrows showing. Well,
there are already arrows on the road, but here's another thing that can be done: is most of these vehicles, these camper vans, have got the GPS units in it. Now, if you're going the wrong way, the little voice pops up, you are going the wrong way. Why not have an app on that says you're on the wrong side of the road? You can make a little device. I mean, I could design one up myself. Make a device that sits in the camper van that tells them instantly if they're on the wrong side of the road. There's a whole bundle of things that can be done with technology these days. But as I say, educate everybody, including the passengers in the vehicle, that are basically saying to the driver, look, you're on the wrong side of the road. And so you've got multiple eyes. This vehicle, there were 3 people in that vehicle, the driver and 2 passengers. Now, the moment that someone's on the wrong side of the road, if someone is saying, hey, quick, you're on the wrong side of the road, then that could well avert an accident.
Well, Gary, the driver always sits on the right-hand side of the road. It sits closest to the middle line.
To the white line.
You'd think that being in a different vehicle, and that you'd be driving with the white line on that. You'd be driving to the white line.
Where it comes as a problem, the Shaggery Road is a shingle road. There is no white line, no nothing. It's basically a single track with room to pass, right? So if you're coming along there, it would be very easy for that person to get disorientated and to have just come out of there on the wrong side of the road. The cyclist wouldn't have had any real time.
No.
It's an 80k speed limit, so he was entitled to go at 80 k's. It was an open area, visibility was good, the weather was perfect, so there was just bad luck, unfortunately, for the cyclists.
Right. Okay, so we've got another. It's not just tourist drivers who tend to wander across the road. I drive in from out that way every day, and people wander across the centre lines, and a lot of slow drivers out there too.
But if you have a look at, we had a camera out here one day, and we were looking at distractions in cars. This is about the time when the ban was put on using cell phones in cars. And we had a camera out there to see what was actually going on. And it wasn't just cell phones. You know, we had people who were eating. We had people eating a burger while they were driving along, and blow me down, they had a burger in one hand and they had a drink in the other hand. They must have been driving with their knees or something. We had women who were putting makeup on while they were driving along. I mean, it was quite hilarious, but the seriousness of it, you know,
Of course.
was a real problem.
Yeah.
With this death on our roads on Monday and the fact that a rental van most commonly hired by foreign tourists were also involved, we went out to the streets of Nelson and gauged public opinion on what they feel about the behaviour of foreign drivers on our roads and what kind of training or tests they think foreigners should undertake before getting into the driver's seat.
Yes, it is a problem. On the West Coast in particular and Otago. Yep. I spend quite a bit of time down there and was doing a bit of driving, and yes, we see problems with it.
Well, I myself at the moment am foreign, but living in Australia, so we share the same road rules. As a whole, I haven't really had enough time to observe it to make a statement on it, but going on my past, I think they just drive a bit too slow, to be honest.
No, I think it's a pretty serious situation that we've got to deal with.
I've followed them around various parts of the South Island. Generally, they're not too bad, but you're always worried that someone's going to get on the wrong side of the road from the other hemisphere.
Bit shocking.
And what kind of training or tests do you think they could undergo before actually getting behind the wheel?
Well, they need to learn to understand our signage and speed limits, and they tend to go really slow around the corners and up the hills, and then as soon as you get to a straight where you think you could actually get past them, they speed up again.
Perhaps we could adopt the same testing or training as they have in Finland, and that is basic rally driving, and that gives people confidence to handle a car when it's out of control, and overall more confidence when driving, period.
Just a basic driving test, I reckon.
Just do the same as what we have to do?
Skill test, yeah.
Well, I think rental car people should have a little bit of a test. But I think the big thing is if all the rental cars can have GPS in them, it makes life a lot easier for the tourists.
Sure.
Yep.
I mean, you might even be able to have a warning when you're going on the wrong side of the road.
Yeah. So technology can be a big help in these things.
Yep.
Same as the New Zealanders.
Oh, yeah? You think they should go through the whole test?
Yeah, that's right.
Tourism, as reported recently, has outstripped dairy farming as New Zealand's #1 earner. However, for the young foreign tourists who spend money and time in New Zealand, who take the cheaper option of freedom camping, the doors are beginning to close, especially for one controversial rental company. Wicked campers have now been dumped from the Department of Conservation's tourist information listings for those wanting to hire camper vans. A spokesman for Conservation Minister Maggie Barry has told media that the department has removed Wicked campers from the list of camper van companies advertised on its website. Minister of Social Development Paula Bennett is leading the way to put pressure on the Wicked van rental company into dropping the slogans, which are seen as having overtones of being sexual or anti-woman. In a stance which is hoped by many will catch on, the Kaitiritiri Recreation Reserve Management has also taken a stand by outright banning the Wicked camper vans from their Kaitiritiri Beach campground due to the van's inappropriate slogans. The charitable trust also encourages other motor camps to do the same. They say that reading these slogans is not part of the Kaitiritiri experience. The camp turned away their first Wicked camper last Monday night, even though the van did not have an inappropriate slogan, but they say they will not pick and choose in their effort to send a message to the rental van company. They say it is disappointing to the campers, most who are foreign, but they have suggested that they advise the company of the campground stance. It appears that this may also start a public movement, with some on social media suggesting that spray paint may soon be in short supply as redecorating offensive slogans may become a vigilante enterprise. We asked some people on the streets if they thought the Wicked van slogans were offensive.
Disgusting, sorry. Yeah, it's a bad image for New Zealand.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't care whether the overseas tourists think it's all right. It's not all right for New Zealand. We're not that. No, small children see those. And what do small kids see when they see something written on a vehicle? They want to read it. Yeah. Then they want to ask Mum what it means. Sure. No, not nice. Yep. Not a good image for this country at all.
I don't find them offensive in the slightest. I certainly see how people could be offended by it, but my take on offence is it doesn't actually exist. some people just take things to heart when they probably shouldn't.
No, I think it's great. Yeah, bit of humour out there.
Yep.
It's good.
Oh, I think it's pretty terrible actually what they have. There's two aspects to them. There's the fact that they are cheap. They're only cheap because they're not self-contained.
Yep.
And in Nelson they park in places where they're very prominent in their car parks. You can go into the car park at 9:30 in the morning and there is people wanging out there washing and with a rude sign on their car. Hey, it's not a good look.
Oh, it doesn't really worry me. I just ignore it.
Tourism's outstripping dairy as New Zealand's number one earner.
Yeah, and that's fine, but they don't have to drive in our country with that sort of signage. They do things here that we wouldn't get away with in their countries. Yeah, it's just a bad image for New Zealand. We've got to have some class.
No, I mean that's discrimination, isn't it? However, if it pleases the masses, they have a business to run.
I think that's a bit silly, isn't it?
Well, I'm involved with the Tuna Beach Holiday Park, which is the biggest camping ground in the Southern Hemisphere.
Yep.
We make it easy for the Freedom campers to come and park there. They don't come because they have their internet links and they tell them, oh, go to this supermarket car park or go to Miller's Acre car park, and they've got their system.
Sure.
And consequently, that is the problem. People are seeing them there, and there are places they could go to easily. And I think in the Lakes District, they've got it pretty well under control. And it would be nice if Nelson could get it under control as much as they have in Queenstown and Wanaka.
Oh, I just let them in. Doesn't matter what.
Right.
Yeah.
Nelson's Forest and Bird Lady Debs Martin came into our studio to talk about the government's intention to helicopter survey areas containing some of our delicate ecosystems with their mineral finding spotlight, with an aim for possible future mining by foreign-owned oil and gas exploration companies. Debs, we've had this helicopter going around this month doing the geological survey. It seems a little bit weird for me to be doing this mapping of all of these very pristine and important areas. So I thought I'd get you to ask your opinion on this survey that's going on.
Yeah, thanks, Graham. You're right. I mean, we've got the petroleum and mineral industry that are surveying our areas of the highest biological diversity in the whole of Nelson. We've just put $6 million into protecting some of Nelson's high priority diversity over the next 10 years, and number one on that list is the mineral belt, the ultramafics. I mean, that area is rich in minerals, absolutely, but it's also, because of that richness in mineral, it's also a home that's rich to a whole unique biodiversity in Nelson area, and in fact is really important biodiversity nationally as well.
I mean, once they do this survey, and we're doing this survey for the overseas mining companies, from what I understand. I mean, they must go bananas when they look at this sort of map of all of these minerals just lying around on top of the ground.
Well, essentially, we're subsidising, we're subsidising the work that they would have to do. We're providing a map of all our minerals to people to then pick up and come along and say, yeah, let's go for it. And I mean, let's face it, the organisation that's doing all of this is totally focused on the mining and extraction of our minerals in New Zealand. I mean, they lead the coal permits, they lead the deep sea oil drilling, they're leading all of that mineral extraction in New Zealand. They are not focused at all on the biodiversity values. Now, if they're going out there and mapping it, what that is going to be then is available on their website for all of these international companies to then pick up and go, gosh, look at all of that stuff that's right there. All of this work's been done for me. Thank you, New Zealand taxpayer, for doing that work for me. I'll come in now and maybe, I'll try and see if I can get a minerals permit. And then they come in to Nelson, and what a waste of time, because we're going to turn around and say, actually, guys, we've been doing a heck of a lot of work and invested more money and people hours in terms of protecting this kind of area. So it's running in for a kind of, collision course, really, where you've got these two things are happening. Some people will say that, well, it's really good to know what's there. Well, it is kind of good to know what's there, but to be honest, we already know what the geological area of that is. To do this kind of detailed mapping is actually just putting information in the hand of mining companies.
And then are we going to run into that with all the new changes to the RMA laws, that we won't have the voice in our community anymore to stop some of these mining or building houses or whatever going on in our community?
well, I hope that anybody that actually supports any changes that would stop our voices when we put such an investment would do something about it, stand up, whether or not they say to the government we don't want these changes, or they determine that that's not the government that they want anymore. I mean, our right to actually be overridden in terms of law changes and those kinds of things will be a real challenge to us, and it certainly has been happening overseas, and we see that happening here with continual undermining of our democracy and so many law changes. But I think if you get to Nelson and you say, well, we're just going to kind of suppress any argument about what can help on the mineral belt when we've been putting so much effort into being there, I think you'll find an outcry.
Yeah,
and a
sure,
rightful one
too. And when you're talking about the protection of Nelson, you're not talking just about forest and bird here, you're talking about Nelson City Council putting money into the Nelson Nature Program?
That's right. So Nelson Nature, it arose out of work that the Biodiversity Forum had done, and that has 28 organisations that belong to it and a lot of commitment by individuals, ranging from Nelson City Council to the Department of Conservation, Federated Farmers are there, forestry industries, and of course Forest and Bird is there as well. And we made some decisions around what are the most important ecological values in the whole of Nelson. That mineral belt came up top.
Nelson's Race Unity Day, held in Victory Park last weekend, was once again a sunny, colourful and tasteful experience to celebrate Nelson's and New Zealand's growing diversity of people and cultures. The event was well attended by Nelsonians who were keen to sample some traditional foods. However, it was not only the foods of other cultures that were on show, but an array of performances from traditional music and songs through to dance. I caught up with Dame Susan Devoy, Race Relations Commissioner, who spoke about the Unity Day and some of the issues around helping refugees to integrate into New Zealand society. Dame Susan Devoy, it's your first time to the Nelson Race Unity Day. What do you think so far?
Oh, I think it's fantastic. You know, I mean, I hear it's a very successful event, and all over the country other multicultural councils are running these events. So yesterday I was in Tauranga, today I'm in Nelson, and they carry on, I think, from, you know, for the next couple of months. It's just wonderful, isn't it? Nelson's obviously changed, like the rest of New Zealand actually, and Nelson seems to have really embraced diversity, you know, if this is any example to go by.
Recently in an immigration conference you said that you're going to we had to do more for refugees. Do you think that'll be backing the double the quota campaign that's going on at the moment and coming up in Parliament?
Well, that's a good question, because you know, the ministers are making that decision now, you know, so there's lots of people, including myself, that have been called to doubling the quota. Nelson has a really fantastic reputation for the welcome and support it gives to refugees, but we need to, if we increase the quota, we need to make sure that we increase support, because it's not easy, is it? But you know, it's our responsibility as a global citizen, and what I've really liked about Nelson is seeing the welcome you give to refugees in different communities, and I think we can do more in the country.
I mean, funding's a good question, because a lot is taken on by the community as volunteer language tutors, volunteer driver tutors. Do you think there's able to be more funds to put into the refugees?
Well, I think, you know, governments can find money for just about everything if they want to, and I think we need to make it clear, and people have, that, you know, with the increase, or not even with the increase in quota, we need to keep increasing the support that we give to refugees so they can have the best start. We know it takes a little longer to get established and to integrate into New Zealand society, and who wouldn't, given where they've come from. But we also see the contribution they make to communities and to New Zealand as a whole, and so I hope that, you know, we can support the volunteers as well that do that, because that's really important.
After the break, we'll bring you the latest weather update and some events and happenings coming up from around the region.
Hi there, Julian Toon, Waimea Telecommunications. We install and maintain domestic and commercial satellite TV. UHF Freeview and Mainland TV installations in the Nelson, Tasman regions. We specialise in Panasonic telephone systems and provide communications, Wi-Fi, IT and wiring for internet, fibre, computers and DSL systems. At Waimea Telecommunications, we also provide specialist electronic systems for features such as a security camera you can watch on your TV, visitor alert systems and much more. Improve your security and communication and entertainment today. Call us on Waimea Telecommunications on 021 472297, ytel.co.nz.
We're the team at JCar, right here in Nelson, 120 Hardy Street. Our shop is full of electronic items,
including security alarm systems, electronic components,
solar and power,
electronics toys,
sound systems, cables and much, much more. JCar.
120 Hardy Street, Nelson.
Welcome me hearties to Smuggler's Pub and Cafe, famous for hearty meals, craft ales and a friendly service way. Sensational seasonal menus with meals all day and evening too, or sail in for a snack with special menus for young smugglers and you. Settle in for a jolly old time, relax and enjoy our award-winning dining and lovely fine wine. Decked out in an old worldly way, we're open 7 days. Book or come on in to 8 Muritai Street, not far from a beach, walk or swim. Phone 5464084.
Why would you want to pay as much as $1,000 for a single bed mattress when you can buy a high quality locally made mattress like this for as little as $220? And a queen size mattress could cost you in excess of $3,000, but at Nelson Beds you could have a mattress like this as low as $425. So why would you go out and spend a fortune on your child's bedroom when you can come to Nelson Beds and buy a complete single mattress and base set, a 7-drawer Scotch chest, a headboard and a 3-drawer bedside cabinet for as little as $979? So call and discuss our custom manufacturing options and local after sales service at Nelson Beds, Nelson's only bedding manufacturer.
Nelson Tire Center, great prices, great service. Buy your own Bryford trailer, all types, all sizes. See Colin Douglas for your tires and batteries.
Sit and Be Fit is on at the Victory Community Centre Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10 a.m. at the Victory Community Church, 238 Upper Vanguard Street. School terms only. Fun while you get fitter, work at your level.
Victory 60 Plus is on Tuesdays at 1:30 through to 3:30 p.m. at 238 Upper Vanguard Street. You can join in for cards, games and a cuppa.
On behalf of the team here at Mainland Television News, thank you for joining us.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.
World War I was a defining period in our history, impacting greatly on the lives of people from the Nelson province. Memories of the First World War is an exhibition which will be displayed in a number of regional venues and is currently on at the Nelson Provincial Museum.
If you have a complaint about any program on Mainland TV, you can write to Mainland Broadcasting, Box 595 Nelson, or contact the Broadcasting Standards Authority.